Great.
Perfect.
Hey there.
Hi, Dominic.
Hey,
Hi,
how are
Alvaro.
you today?
I'm great. How are you?
Very good. Good to see you. I see you have an interesting background there. That's virtual, right?
That is unfortunately it's virtual. Yeah, and I'm sorry for being a couple of minutes late. I had to register as an attendee to come in. It wouldn't let me come in over the usual link.
No worries. You're here. That's all that matters. And with that, actually, let me officially welcome you. So, big warm welcome, everyone. Let's see. We might have a couple more people joining later on. That's perfectly fine. Just want to make sure we use your time preciously for the ones that have joined, and being very much appreciative of your time, Ben, as well. As I said, I am today filling in for Alvaro, right, as the moderator, and I'm happy I can. We've talked before, Ben. I know you're extremely enthusiastic about sales and sales as a career. And for all of you, that's actually the goal of today. Some of you may be interested in getting started in sales. Some of you may have already decided to definitely start with your sales career. And we've invited you, Ben, to just share a little bit more about what it actually really is like from the perspective of somebody that is working in sales. Okay, so what it's going to be like, I'm going to share a short presentation, really just briefly giving some context on why are we here, who is Highrise, what is tech sales actually, and there, Ben, I'm also going to include you already and all of you that are here as attendees. And then the bulk of today is going to be me and us asking you, Ben, about you, basically.
Sounds great.
Cool, thank you. So I'll leave you as panelist, okay? You don't need to feel put on the spot. And what I will actually do is pull up a presentation and give me a sign, please, if you can see my screen. You should be able to. Perfect. Great. So again, today is about filling you in on what sales actually means, tech sales especially, and how to get started in your career. Now, you may have heard the term before, software is eating the world. And if you have not, it's a very, very famous investor and entrepreneur that has coined a term saying, essentially, any company is becoming a software company. And if there is one industry of the future, it's definitely software. And you've seen it, I think, during Corona. Many conventional industries, right, like retail, like tourism, like restaurant or hotel industry have struggled. But if there's one industry that has really picked up, it's anything to do with software. And what we are showing here, don't be confused by the icons, is in progression from 2001 to 2016, so 15 years later, what are the most valuable companies in the world? And you see in 2001, it was more the traditional players, ExxonMobil, oil company, Citi, a bank, Walmart, retail giant, GE, conventional multi-conglomerate technology company. And then there was Microsoft in there as only a digital player. 2016, it's only digital players, and they have really picked up fast. And today you could, continue writing that list, and the company after this, they would all be software companies. So it really is the future. And now, what many people think is that when you want to join the software industry, because it's called tech, they think you automatically need to be a technical profile. Many people we talk to, they say, hey, I want to be, I do want to join the industry, but hey, I can't code. I was never good at math in school or informatics. But nothing could be further from the truth. If you look at this chart, most jobs are actually non-technical nature. Okay, there's a good amount of jobs technical, 43%, but there are also tasks like, those products, even though they're digital, have to be marketed. They have to be serviced. There are projects that need to be implemented, and customers have questions they need help on. And for all those things, you need non-technical profiles. And here's where we come to the big issue that tech companies actually have. See, digital products are usually not that easy to understand. And that's why they need people explaining them and selling them. And that usually in a very consultative way. And that's why they need sales talent, even more so today, more so than ever. And the demand actually, and that's now for Germany only. And Ben, I don't know if you know those numbers. That was as of last year. There were 16,000 open sales positions for junior sales profiles, right? Entry level. However, there were only 4,500 profiles on the market. So the demand exceeds the current supply by 3.5. And that's why so many companies are struggling, because they need profiles, but there aren't any. Why? We come to in a second. As a matter of fact, and that's a number now that was from consulting company McKinsey, by 2030, there will be 9.2 million new jobs created in sales only. So huge numbers, right? So many people that worked in conventional industries will have to reskill in the digital industry and in digital sales. Now, you may wonder, that's what we did at Highrise. How come, that there are only so few salespeople, even though the demand is so high? Well, and there are a couple of reasons. Now, first of all, see, that's the big gray circle. It's the overall working population. The red circle as the actual sales population. What you see here is the potential sales population, meaning the people that actually have what it takes to work in sales. So 1 of 5 people have the talents that are needed for sales, but only so few consider sales. Why is that? Now, number one, sales still has a somewhat bad reputation. Why people think sales is pushing people to buy something they don't want. People think of sleazy car salesmen and insurance brokers that sell stuff, to their old grandma, even though she doesn't need it. Right? Stereotypes. Second is, you don't learn sales anywhere. Now, if you go to university, there's no bachelor studies telling you how to become a salesperson, not a master's one. And there's no vocational training, right? So of course, where there's supposed to be salespeople when nobody educates and trains you for it. And that's actually true for many digital jobs, but especially for sales. And that's a shame, but that's the whole reason for us to have created Highrise Academy, right? So I'm one of the co-founders, I'm Dominic. We're actually previously entrepreneurs in the digital industry that were on the other side of the fence. We had companies that needed salespeople, but never found any. And based on that need, we then created this academy that finds people, career changers or career starters, puts them through a very intensive 6-week program, 6 weeks full-time, 12 weeks part-time, that is designed for employability. So teaching you everything you need to really master your first job as a sales junior. And once you're there, once you're ready, we place you at growing tech companies. And what we look for during the selection process is not, previous experience in sales, right? But what we look for is soft skills, is your naturally given talents. Like, are you curious? Are you coachable? Do you have what it takes to put in the work? Do you want to work? Do you have empathy? Do you show natural interest in people? Then if you show that, you're admitted to the program. And during the program, I think what's most important, you perform real world sales. So you're being onboarded at a training company and you get assignments. You also get theory, but what you mostly need to prove is to put the theory into practice. And on that, you get real coaching by an experienced industry expert and also by the people going through the program with you. And once you're ready, once you've gone through the program, as I said, we place you at companies like, Dr. Lib in Germany, or like Microsoft, like Zoom, Salesforce. Those are companies that we're collaborating with. Our objective is literally to get you job ready in the shortest and most effective way possible. And we promise you, and I think that's the big selling point, that if you don't land a job right after the program, the training is for free, right? So we literally say, if we don't get you that, then we have failed as a training company. Now, with that being said, let's get to what tech sales really is and what it's not. So when you hear tech companies, mostly there are three groups of companies. There are software companies, hardware, and services. And for our sake, let's focus on software. Software companies in tech are the ones that you may know as a consumer. That is what we call B2C. You all know Netflix, that you watch your movies through. You know all the apps that you have on your phones. Whether that being Google Maps, Spotify, dating apps like Tinder, all that is technology, all that is software. And in B2B, a big company, maybe Microsoft, it may be Amazon, it may be Salesforce. And Ben, Asana is solely B2B or
It's
mostly B2B?
solely B2B, yeah.
Okay, great. And what Asana does, we'll get to in a second. Now, Ben, before you joined sales, what did you think of sales? Did you have a certain stereotype?
Pretty much exactly the stereotype that you described earlier, which is why I was 100% nodding when you were saying that. I did not ever consider myself going into sales, and my very first sales role that I did was in selling travels to backpackers during my time in Australia. And even then I didn't want to do it. I just did it because I really needed a job at the time. And I was like, well, I traveled a lot, so selling travels to other people, maybe I can do that. But my stereotype was exactly that: sleazy car salesman, convincing people, talking them into spending more money than they should. And I really did not want to be that person.
Yeah, and that's exactly what most people fear and feel, right? So we actually had one person in our program once that said, when she told them she was going to learn sales and wanting to land a job at a tech company, her parents asked her, hey, but you went to university. Why do you want to get into sales? And that's just terrible, that sales still has that perception, especially in Germany. In the US, it's different, right? People take more pride in that. It has a different mentality. But what we think of is, making money. It's all about money. Telling people something that they want to hear to just close the deal. But nothing could be further from the truth. Now, what does a tech salesperson actually do? And I don't know, maybe here we stop for a second, and I want to actually get it over to you that are listening. What do you think? Because I think there are 2 or 3 high risers that are in the program already. What does a tech salesperson actually do? What is tech sales actually about? So share it in the chat function. Please just put it in. Don't be shy. Just throw it out there. Words. What do you think? What does a tech salesperson do, and what is it about? We want to hear something. We want to see some activity. And I know that there's some of you in there that should know what tech sales is about. And I want to hear that. So please get it up, share it. I don't see anything yet. Maybe let's help them a little bit, Ben. What in your mind is tech sales about?
For me, it's about consulting people to find the right solution to a problem they currently have and to help them get value out of that solution. It's about making their life easier.
Well, the good thing is we're recording this session. That's a great answer. really, we'll get to that in a second. Beautiful. So as you heard, it's about people, it's about problem solving, it's about consulting. Here, Robin said dealing with the product and not persuading people. Great. Listen to problems. Thank you, VRL. Great. So he's one of the ones that's in the program already. Provide a solution, listening. So all the right words are in there, especially for B2B, so for selling to companies, and for tech sales. Great. Now let's go back to the presentation, because what you said is exactly right. See, now modern sales, and that paradigm has changed in the last 20 years, is about the buyer. That's where it starts. So you see, in sales, it's never about you as a salesperson, and it's never what you want. That's where most people go wrong. They think, well, it's about me convincing people to buy, right? I need to make my goals, right? The company wants to make money. Forget that mindset. In B2B sales, so selling to businesses, not to consumers, right? You'll be mostly working, selling to other companies, which makes it interesting. Think of it that way. Those companies usually have problems. They have tons of problems, right? With their operations, with their processes. And the company that you work for was founded by someone that has identified a certain problem in the marketplace to which they found a solution. And then they created their company. What your role as a salesperson is mostly finding those people that have a problem for which your company was created, really wanting to curiously find out if they have a problem when you talk to them. So by asking good questions, you really want to find out, do you have the problem? And only if and when they have the problem, you then start consulting them on potential ways they can solve it, your company having one solution, what it could look like if they worked with it, and you help them answer questions they have. So it's about being helpful. It's about giving them data, giving them options. And yes, then if they find value in what you say, it's about bringing that deal to a close. But first and foremost, it's really about being helpful and adding value throughout the process. It really is, as you said, Ben, more about being a consultant than somebody who's trying to convince people. It's really just helping the ones that have a problem. The ones that don't have a problem, you don't convince, right? And what you do in that process is, yes, certain activities that you would probably think of when you hear sales. And that is, yes, you need to find those leads. So you need to do research on platforms like LinkedIn. Once you found them, you need to research who they are. If you think they might have a problem, if you think that you found a lead that may have a problem, you reach out to using a telephone, cold calling. You use social media tools, that LinkedIn could be one. You reach out to them via email. You use all channels available to you to make contact. And then you talk to them, you try to engage them in a meaningful way. And if you found they have a problem, you want to drive deep on the problem, really understand what it is that you can help with, good questioning techniques. And once you found that they do have a need that you can help with, you give a demo, you make a proposal, and then at some point you bring it to a close. Okay, but it's always about providing value. Now, certain skills you need to master what I've just explained is not, as you would think, again, technical skills because you're working for a technical company, but it's soft skills. And there's really lots of literature about certain skills and how they correlate with future sales success. And the 5 most important ones we've listed in red. Number 1, are you curious? So are you really interested in other people and their problems? Do you really want to find out more? Are you willing to learn for yourself, but about others? Are you coachable, right? If you are new to this career, Are you open to receiving feedback and to implementing that? Do you show empathy? Can you really understand in what situation another person is? Can you think from their perspective? Are you motivated? Do you have drive? Do you not stop at the first no? And of course, do you put in what it takes to be then successful in the end? Those are the most important skills, and those are also the ones that we recruit for. And sorry, if my presentation sometimes gets stuck, it's unfortunately the presentation. Then all in all, right? So what sales really is and is not. We said there's huge demand. I did mention that it's really open to everyone that has those 5 key skills that I mentioned. Everyone knows, of course, that when you're successful in sales, because it needs you to grow or you're the single channel to growth for a company. New customers only come through sales. And that's why companies reward that very highly. So the pay is very good, obviously. But also, and that ties back to what you said, Ben, since it's really about helping other people solve a problem, once they've said yes to your solution and thank you for having contacted them, you feel that recognition and that reward that sales really offers. Because it's something that they do and say that makes you feel good. There's almost no other job besides being an entrepreneur that offers that kind of immediate feedback from another individual. You hear if they like it, you hear if they don't like it, but if they like it and you come out of a call and a meeting and they say yes to you, that just really feels great. It really is fulfilling work as well. And now with that being said, and let me take a look. It's now 24 after. We want to turn to you, Ben, right? Because that in the end is what it's all about. First of all, again, big thank you for taking the time out of your busy day. For all of you listening, please share your questions either with me directly or put it in the general channel. Ben, I will moderate. Okay, and I will prioritize those questions first. Before we start, maybe can you quickly introduce yourself besides you being enterprise account executive at Asana? I also know that you started your sales career at a different company. I also know that you're an entrepreneur. So kind of tell us, what was your journey into sales? How did you get started with your sales career?
That's a long story. Since you said to keep that answer short, I'll try my best. But as I said previously, I didn't plan on it. Well, actually, before getting into it, thanks so much for having me. I'm very excited to be here and to support you guys with it, because everything you said on all these slides so far, I can 100% support that with my own experience, which is why I got in touch with you, because I think it's fantastic what you guys are doing, and there's such a huge need in that market. In my company alone, we're looking for countless sales reps, and we can't find as many as we need. So there's a huge demand for that. So 100% support everything you said. But how did I get into sales? I said didn't plan to do it. I was one of the typical guys who did not know what I want to do career-wise at all. After finishing high school, my dad asked, "What are you going to do with your life?" I said, "I don't know. Let me go and work for a year in Austria as a ski instructor at the time. And I'll tell you afterwards what I want to do. I'll take a year to find out." Came back from the year and my dad said, "So what are you going to do?" And I said, "I don't know. Let me go and travel a bit and I'll come back and I'll tell you." And afterwards, I still didn't know. So he chose for me, and I ended up doing an apprenticeship in logistics, typical 3-year training as we do in Germany. And I did not like it, and I was not happy with it. So I didn't stay working in it for long, and decided to go travel again. And ultimately my travels led me to Australia, where I tried 101 different jobs over my 5 years that I ended up staying over there. But none was a job where I said, like, I actually want to do that. Like, that's going to be my career. I love doing that, until I took that job selling travel at the time. And I figured, wow, like, I can support myself. I can make money by telling people about something that I'm passionate about, that I love, they actually look for a solution to that problem, which is how can I travel through Australia at the time? And I can help them organize it. And I really, really enjoyed it. So from there on, it was all sales jobs for me. And eventually I came back to Germany and was looking for the new next job for me, applied for a bunch of things, didn't work out immediately. And by pure coincidence, I stumbled into tech sales, which was a recruiter contacting me, telling me about it in the same way that you just spoke about it, really. That was the base layer of information I had. And he said, do you want to give it a try? So I said, well, I do not know anything about software at all. I can't code. I'm not a very technical person, but he sounded very convincing. He told me with the skills that I have, I can do it. So I said, all right, let's do it. And I joined a company that's called Showpad, Belgium software company that had an office in Munich at the time and still does. I joined them as a BDR, which is an entry-level sales position. And that's how it all started.
And now you work at Asana, right? So can you maybe quickly say, for the ones that are not dealing with tech every day in and out? I know Asana, I love Asana, by the way, from having worked at my previous company. What does Asana really do?
So Asana is a work management solution. And work management might not be something that does ring a bell to you right away, but it's essentially the evolution of project management, where we used to organize how we run projects in our company. But eventually, it's not everybody is a project manager, and not everybody runs projects, but we all do work day in, day out. And communication can be difficult, especially in the digital age. So a lot of work either gets forgotten about, we miss deadlines, we don't actually know who is doing what by when, and there's so much confusion. And what that does, it costs us time, it costs us money, and it definitely gets on our nerves because we'd never accomplish as much as we could do. That's where Asana comes in. What Asana does is give you precisely the answer to these questions. Who is doing what by when, and what do we need to do to hit our deadlines and work more effectively? So it helps entire departments and teams organize everything around their work.
Yeah, we used it as, I always call it, the Lux task management tool, right? That's definitely probably narrowing it down to too much. But all my tasks, I always had Asana open besides having Salesforce open or other things, and that totally managed my day in, day out. Now, you mentioned your journey all the way from, kind of you becoming a ski instructor in Austria, which I didn't know, by the way. Then you went to Australia. Then you started working at Showpad. Then what happened then? What happened after Showpad and you becoming a BDR? So what was kind of your career progression within sales?
That career progression went much, much faster than I ever anticipated, because I didn't know an industry in which you can get promoted as fast if you just show up, do the work, and hustle. That was entirely new to me. And I was terrified in the beginning about not knowing anything about software. And I felt like I'm probably going to fail at that. But hey, let's give it my best shot. Let's give it 110%. And I really, really hung in there. I did the calls, I contacted the people, and eventually I found, hey, this is not as tricky as I thought it is. Not at all. It's just about having discipline, putting in the work. And my company realized that quite quickly, that I'm hungry, that I want to succeed. So within just 8 months of being a BDR, they promoted me and I became a mid-market account executive, which means I went from just sourcing deals and introducing people to the AEs and setting meetings from them to actually running full deal cycles myself and fully consulting the customer across the entire journey of evaluating our product and close my own deals. And I love that. So I said, well, let's do the same thing I did as a BDR. Let's hustle, let's hang in there. And just 1.5 years later, I became an enterprise account executive, which means I now get to do the same thing with the biggest companies they are in the DACH region.
Great. So that's, when I counted correctly, within 2.5 years, at two promotions, right? Which is fast, and which is something that we tell our students as well. And sometimes, people don't believe that, but they know, because the market is so competitive for talent. If they don't immediately promote the best talents, they know they're going to lose them to another company, right? And that's also, for everyone, the rationale that's behind those quick promotions. Now you've touched on it, but just for everyone interested on the webinar, what did you do as a BDR? And how did that then change to becoming an AE?
Essentially, you can look at every deal or every sale you make from your software company to the customer, to the other company. You can look at it at different phases that you go through, ending obviously with the signature of the contract and onboarding the customer. But it got to start somewhere where you find the customers that you can in the end sell to, find the people who have the problem that your solution can solve. And that is very much the definition of what the BDR, or sometimes also called SDR, has to do in their job. For my job was in a certain territory. For me, back when I was a BDR, was all companies in Germany, Austria, and Switzerland that work in the space of manufacturing, which is obviously thousands of companies. I got to pick them out, and I got to call into the right positions, call the people that might actually have that problem that we can solve for them. So a lot of my time was spent on the phone. A lot of my time was spent emailing. I also got to go out on some trade shows back before COVID, when there were still trade shows, and actually talk to people at their booth. And it was all about identifying, do these people I talk to have that problem that we can solve? And if yes, can I set a meeting for them with my account executive that I worked with, which is the role that I became afterwards. And when I was successful at it, which luckily I was, then that was a job well done. And I said enough.
Perfect. And so that's the perfect segue, right? You said as an AE, you're kind of the one that's doing the outreach, you're identifying the right people, you qualify if they do have a pain, and then you now hand over to, let's say, then the more senior profile, right? The more experienced one, which is the account executive. Then what does the account executive do?
Now, from there, the journey only just begun, right? For the BDR, this is the end of, oftentimes, not every time, roles vary, but most of the time, this is the end of their journey, and they go on to find the next customer. For the AE, this is where their work begins. So the AE will have an intro meeting, both with the BDR and the customer, and talk about these challenges, and really just listen and find out, what are they looking for? Can we help them find that? And if the AE decides, yes, we can really help them, then typically it goes into having several meetings with the customer. Some may be a demo where you actually show, dear customer, this is how I can solve your solution. This is what our software does, and this is how it matches your problems, and ultimately make a value proposition to the customer. If we use this solution for this problem, this is the outcome that you can achieve. Really show them the return of investment they could get. Typically from there onwards, if the customer is happy about that, you go into an IT evaluation, which sounds much more scary than it is, because as an AE, you always have a helpful part by your side, which is called a solution engineer. And they're very much more tech savvy than you ever need to be. And they will help you get you through the IT and all the requests they might have in purchasing software for their company. And then you get into the very exciting stage, which is negotiating a contract with them, which can be very easy, or it can be a very lengthy and tricky concept of negotiating with them. And there it's all about people management, having set up the right relationships with all the stakeholders that you speak with until you get into negotiation. And if you've done everything well and have a bit of luck, then you get the contract signed and you've done your part.
Right, and what you mentioned already really beautifully outlines the career progression path that there is in tech sales, right? So most people usually start as what is referred to as BDR or SDR, right? Either focused on outbound, so you generate new leads and qualify them, or inbound, you deal with the ones that the company has already created, usually marketing. You start with that, you work in that role for usually, when you were very fast, 8 months.
I was very fast. The average, in my opinion, is anywhere between 1 and 2 years.
Yep. And that's also what we have, actually 1.2 years, about is the average right now, that you work in that entry level role, which is what we prepare our high risers for as well. And then you're usually promoted to account executive, then enterprise account executive, which means you get bigger, more important companies, or the ones that may yield more revenue for your company. And then you kind of go from there. You may be a manager. And because, for tech sales, that career is so structured, it usually follows about the same sales process. And that's exactly also why sales can be learned, because it follows a series of steps and activities that have been validated. and that's why you can learn it, and that's why we teach it, for example, right? Just to bring that to a full close. Now, when you now look back, right, on your 10 years as a sales professional, what have you enjoyed most? What do you still enjoy most to this day about sales?
There's many things I enjoy, so I could give many different answers to that. But I think overall, like if I would really have to sum it up, it's the hustle. Like I love the hustle. I could never again do a job that is like I'll just do one thing, and the next day I come to work and I do the same thing, and the next day I come to work and I do the same thing, and you never really get anywhere. And in sales, it's always just an upwards journey. Like you hustle, you throw yourself in there, you do your very best. Sometimes you have setbacks, but ultimately you're always moving forward, and you really do that by your own work. And unlike any other industry that I know, hard work gets rewarded, and gets rewarded greatly. And you get promoted, you get pay rises, you get to travel with your company quite a lot. I've been halfway around the world in the last 3 years for this job, which has been something I always dreamed about, and that I really enjoy. That's so exciting. It never gets boring. You never slow down. You're in a very fast driving car, and it only accelerates even more at all times.
Is sales is very monotonous, repetitive work? Yes or no?
No, not at all. Like,
why
yes,
not?
repeat processes 100%, and there are concepts that you should stick to because they're going to make your life easier. And yes, you do need to be structured in your work, know how to organize your calendar, but you learn all that. That comes with the role, that comes with the progression you make. But every customer is different. Every challenge is different. At my time at Asana, I only been with them for a year. I probably closed just under 100 deals in that time. And I will tell you now, every of those 100 deals was entirely different. Different people, different challenges, different way they want to use Asana. Every time I had to readjust and find out, how can I find the best solution for them? How can I package it the right way to really bring them a good service and to add value to their organization?
Beautiful, because what people still think, right, is that old stereotype of sales. I don't want to work in a call center. Well, it's not that, you know, it's really about people. Every deal is different, as you said. If you look for, let's say, a diverse skill set that you need to apply day in, day out, and be independent in how you apply that, then that is sales, right? And it's just making sure breaking with that stereotype really is what sales is not about. Yeah. Okay. Great. Now from your perspective, right? I've listed some soft skills, right? That the theory or researchers have found out supposedly correlate with sales success. What, in your very own personal opinion, do you think is a key skill to have if you want to be successful in sales?
Well, key skills, if we stay on the soft side for now, I would say it's drive. It's the number one thing. Like, do you want to succeed? Yes. How bad do you want it? Like, if the answer to that is I want it bad, like I want to succeed, I want to make something out of my life, I want to make it big, it's probably for you. Most likely. Like, if you want to succeed, go and you're willing to do something for it, go into sales. I recommended it to so many of my friends. I would say probably half my group of friends by now has joined different tech companies and got into sales. I helped so many of them by now. And if I recommend it to my friends, that just speaks for it, because they all saw my trajectory over the last 2 years and they're like, I want that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I can do it too. And yes, you can if you want it.
It's the best advertising. Yeah. And now, if you were to give your younger self, I mean, it's only 3 years ago, right? Some advice, what would it be?
Oh, I could write a book on that.
It could be one. Hey,
it'd be a lot of technical advice, but I'm trying to think now what wouldn't be like sales specific technical advice, to not dive too deep into it, but more general advice. But
yeah, it can be whatever, you know. It can also be, hey man, do the same just repeat the same thing that you did, make sure you go and you know what you said, becoming a skiing instructor in Austria probably was good for you, right? It was
Probably, yeah.
good for you.
I'll probably tell myself looking back, like, don't worry about being too ambitious. Like, it is possible, because in my first months of being a BDR, I wouldn't have dreamed about being an enterprise AE with a company like Asana, with the Silicon Valley unicorn, and flying around the world for them. If you would have told me, I would have said, no way in hell, you're full of crap. I would probably go back and tell myself, like, reach for the stars. Yeah. Like, hustle even harder than you think you can, because everything is possible.
Yeah, beautiful. Hey, there was so much value in what you said already, right? And now let me making sure it's not too one-sided here for me, because I get pulled into the conversation. I want to get it up for our guests today that joined the webinar. So to all of you, please share any question that you might have, right? It can be on, Ben specifically, him as a person, the company he's worked for, a specific advice that you're looking for, anything sales specific, anything that you want to ask. Now you have someone, it's a very intimate setting. Okay. Any question is a good question, or let me put it differently. There are no bad questions. So please get it up. I'll ask another question or two in between, but please do use the chat functionality. Ben, what is because you said it before, what is a hard skill in a context of sales that you would tell future salespeople to train? I mean, the numerous.
Yeah, being organized and knowing how to use your time wisely. And you can practice that way before sales. If you get up every morning and you don't really have a plan what you're going to do with that day, how you're going to use your time wisely, that's probably an area you can work on even before you start that career. Like, start structuring your day, make up a calendar, even for your private time. Know when you're spending time with what, and start thinking about, with the things that you want to do, what brings you how much value, what do you want to invest your time in, and then let that flow into your organization. That's going to be super, super helpful as a sales rep. Why
do you say that? So this to the ones that have not worked in sales already, right? They would have thought maybe you pick something else.
Essentially, as a sales rep, it sounds bad. It's not as bad as I might make it sound now, but your to-do list does not end. There is not. It's not like any other job where it's like, oh, it's 5 o'clock. All right, I'm done for the day. Like, some days you might work late, not every day, and it's entirely up to you, to your company as well. But it's also up to how much you want to succeed. And then when there's endless amount of things to do, well, you have to prioritize. So what am I going to spend my time with? Am I going to write more emails? Am I going to do more calls? Am I going to try to get directly into meetings? Am I going to drive out to a trade show? But that's going to cost me an entire day. So thinking about how to use your time effectively and structuring it weeks in advance sometimes, that can really, really help you become more successful.
Yeah, the reason I'm smiling is because it's just repetitive, right? The people keep saying the same things that have worked in sales. Just last week, we had a masterclass with Christian Krause. He's a social selling expert at Salesforce. He said one of the number one sales skill to have is time management, because you have so many rivaling priorities, and you need to make sure you spend your time most wisely. So be the smartest worker in the room, right? That's what he labeled it as. Great. Okay. And by the way, to you high risers listening, it's something that's coming up in modules 4 and 5, how to organize yourself. Key. So let's get up for some questions. Rohit is asking.
There's one in the chat there on social selling.
Yeah. So thanks, Rohit. According to you, Ben, how can you use social selling, right? How can it be an effective medium to generate leads? Can it be?
It is 100%. It's a must do. Actually, like to come back to the point I did before, this is how I started my day today, my Thursday morning. I got 1 hour blocked every Thursday morning to do social selling, which for me means use my LinkedIn, which is a main tool, a main platform I use for social selling. Most German businesses are on there. Most people I want to talk with are on there. I would say probably 95% of the people I want to speak with do use LinkedIn quite regularly. So what do I do there in terms of social selling? Well, first of all, I always take care of my profile. I always try to have my profile up to date. I post a lot. I want people to see me. I connect to people. I message people. It's about being present in the network. I want people to see Asana. I want people to see Ben, who works for Asana, all over the place when they turn into LinkedIn, like blinking lights. I want them to be aware. If they want to talk about work management and Asana, come talk to me. And that effort does pay off. It definitely pays off. I wouldn't say it can be the main source for your leads. Definitely not. But if you have a strong game at it, if you practice it, if you innovate the way you do social selling, I would say it can be a significant part of the leads that you generate and ultimately deals that you close.
Yeah, and that's a good, I mean, there's a big controversy on what's most effective, right? Social selling or cold calling. Data suggests, cold calling still is the most efficient way of getting to feedback. So a quick yes or no, instead of, sending a message and waiting for feedback a couple of days, just pick up the phone and call that person. Again, it's about smartest investment of your time. In the end, really, it comes down to using all channels available to you, right? And using the channel that's most effective for the person that you want to reach. Yeah, obviously. Now, when you started your career, it's the second question, as a salesperson, how comfortable were you with cold calling?
I'd say honestly, just as uncomfortable as everybody would be in the beginning, which perfectly normal. I had never done it before. When I joined Showpad as a BDR, I didn't even know that it's going to be the main thing that I'm going to be doing for most of the time. They didn't describe it as such. So I was like, when I realized that's what I'm going to be doing, I was a bit scared. Which is normal. That's fine. Like I knew I can talk to people if they stand in front of me, but calling them and not seeing them for some reason, that freaked me out a bit. And then unluckily, I didn't have someone like High Rise Academy who taught me the ins and outs of it before. So I didn't know what I was doing. And luckily I found a mentor within Showpad who sat down with me, and he was very, very hard with me on the training, because he's like, I'm gonna teach you everything there is to know about cold calling within 3 days. And that was 3 days of sitting in a room with him and pretend calling him, and him telling me on and on that I was shit at it, until on the third day he was like, that was brilliant. Now you got it. Now go out there and call him, which is, I just did it. You just get over yourself, and eventually you actually start having great conversations with people on the phone. Like all the stories you make up in your head, 90% of it is far worse than it gets. Will you have people hang up on you? Yes. Like, will people not be happy that you call them? At times, yes, that does happen. But at the same time, you will talk to people who are in a position of power, people you thought you would never be able to hold a conversation with, and you're going to have like 1 hour conversations with them on the phone. Never even met them. Like in my I think second month, I spoke to a CEO of a company that has 5,000 employees for an hour on the phone. This guy took an hour to speak to me about his problem, and we had such great rapport. And he added me on LinkedIn afterwards.
And see, that's so funny. It's what most people are afraid, because they think, of course, you're calling people uninvited, but of course, you're also calling people that generally fit your persona of somebody that would have a problem you can help with. So you don't call anyone that couldn't be a fit. Generally, they look like they could be a fit, and you curiously want to find out if they have a problem. And if you master that, they may at the end actually really thank you, because you do have a valuable solution to their problem. Because remember, you're working for a B2B software company. You're not selling them, a third iPhone to two they already have. It's really something else. Business to business sales in our context of technology is different, is more qualified usually. And if you master cold calling, it's when our students feel the biggest confidence boost. once they sit down for an hour and a half, they get out of the session, they feel energized, they feel like, man, Dom, I feel great. I had these calls and I overcame that. And they scheduled meetings with me and now I have them. And I really think there is somebody that could be a fit. Great, it works. And there's also that rush of adrenaline that they get. And where they see the biggest growth, because that's where they have to leave their comfort zone the most as well.
100% agree. And I believe like when you look at what you got to put in it versus what you get out of it, that's what I taught my friends who later became BDRs, and some of them are AEs by now as well. I taught them about cold calling. It's one of those things which you can learn relatively easily. If you throw yourself in there and you put in 2-3 months of actually doing it, you're going to be quite good at it compared to when you started. And that's a skill that's going to be helpful for the rest of your life. You're going to spend so much time throughout your life talking to other professionals on the phone. If you get good at that, if you master that, that's going to help you with everything and any time, all the time. It's little input, massive reward learning it.
Right. And I think that's also a great closing remark, actually. I think that, we originally scheduled 45 minutes, knowing that time management is one of the most important skills. I don't want to be overdrawing the original time frame, unless anyone has one final question. Okay, if there's anything that's really burning that you want to get answers to, please share now. Otherwise, while I'm saying that, feel free, or I would encourage you to reach out to Ben on LinkedIn. As we said, right, feel free to connect with him. I'm offering that, Ben.
Yeah, definitely. Please go ahead and feel free to contact me afterwards as well. You can connect with me on LinkedIn, follow me on LinkedIn. And if there's any questions which you didn't want to ask in this group, just send me a private message on LinkedIn. More than happy to connect with you guys and answer all your questions as well.
Great, because remember, you start building your sales network today already. So reach out to him, reach out to me. Again, if you have any questions on sales generally, ask us. If you have questions on Highrise Academy, reach out to me, Dominic at highrise.com. You may already be in contact with our third co-founder, Michael, which is Michael at highrise.com. Reach out to him with questions. Any point in time, we're here for you. Hope that we could shed some more light on what sales is and is not, and why we think it's a great career path for you. Maybe that's what you have to answer for yourself. One way or the other, thanks for joining us today. Ben, again, I loved it. It's obvious that that's a career that's been tailored to you. With your energy, your enthusiasm for that, thanks for helping pass that on. I think it's key for changing that stereotype of sales. I'm looking forward to a masterclass that I think is coming up with you as well on the topic of cold calling.
It's going to be on cold calling, yeah.
So now I know why, right? From your 3 days intensive training. Looking forward to that as well. And to all of you, have a lovely evening. See you around. Bye-bye. Take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.